Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Post-Conference Presser for Anfield Index. It's the Champions League, isn't it? The final group stage. 8 out of 8 games set to be played. And I don't know if you've noticed, there's nothing tonight, is there? They're all tomorrow night. They all kick off at the same time, which is probably something I like about this group stage more than anything. But we're here to talk about Arne Slot and Cody Gakpo's press conference, as well as looking back a little bit to the Ipswich game for clues, talking about the threats that PSV provide, and giving the predicted lineup, score and scorer. I'm your normal host, Dave Davies, coming to you from, it's actually not that bad in Edinburgh tonight. It's just absolutely pissing it down as I look outside. But it's not as cold as it's been recently, so we will take that. But it's not about Edinburgh. It's about Liverpool and who's heading to Eindhoven. And just in case anyone was thinking Arne Slot doesn't rotate a lot, and you look at the numbers, you think, this is a chance to go 8 out of 8. This is a chance to set a new Champions League record. Arne Slot only makes 2 or 3 changes per game. He doesn't do that much. Well, let me give you a little quote from what he said in this press conference. I'm happy we're in the position we are in now. It doesn't matter if we win or lose tomorrow. The words of Arne Slot, it doesn't matter if we win or lose tomorrow. Now, how many teams have been in the Arne Slot penitentiary this season? PSV are on day release, aren't they? And it's an interesting squad. It's maybe more interesting who's not flying. So let's get into it straight away, because you may or may not have seen the news, and this kind of escaped a little bit with the announcement of the squad. But the big positive, Joe Gomez. Ain't nobody like Joe Gomez, is there? He is back in training, which is great. No sign of Jota, no sign of Joes. Now, I tell a lie, actually, because Jota was in the photos that Liverpool put out on their official Twitter, website, etc., but not on the training pitch. There was no Diogo Jota. There's no questions about those two either. No real questions about Joe Gomez either in this press conference. So that will all have to wait till the Bournemouth one. But as we says, and as it says there, it's all about who when. Now, if you look at this photo, Liverpool know what they're doing here, because Cody Gakpo, with the likes of McConnell and Morrison, he kind of looks like that cool PE teacher that you had in year 10 or 11, didn't you? You know, the one that you knew had trials at Stockport County or something like that. You know, the sound one that you could talk to and you thought, he's old, but he's all right. And that's probably how they're looking at him a little bit, because look at that squad and the names. There are some senior players there. Endo, Nunes, Chiesa, Gakpo, as we know, Elliott, Tsimikas, Robbo, they all go. Kwanzaa, you're not going to be a senior player, but one of experience. Maybe it's more important to say who's not going with Cody Gakpo. There's no Allison. There's no VVD. There's no Ibu. There's no Trent. Most of the back line. The entire senior midfielder's not going. No Grav, no Mac, no Zabozlai travelling over. No Salah going over either. No Diaz. In fact, as we'll come to, it's pretty clear the only reason that Cody Gakpo is going is because he's asked Arne Slot to go. And you kind of understand it a little bit, don't you? Because it's his club. But yeah, maybe surprises for many. But just in case you missed that at the start, you're thinking, do we think differently to Arne Slot? To quote Arne Slot again, it doesn't matter if we win or lose tomorrow. I wonder if the bean counters think that. 2.1 million euros, is it, for a win? But who cares? It's all what Arne Slot thinks, isn't it? Drop a like, drop a comment in the chat panel if you think different at all. But let's get into it, ladies and gents. What were the questions that Arne Slot was asked? What are the answers he gave? And this is just me. And listen, Dutch fans, before you jump on me, they were all kind of nice questions from the Dutch media. I thought they were all supposed to be like cutthroat, vipers in the nest type of thing and going for it. But it all seemed to be quite nice and friendly, shall we say. Maybe it's because it's a hero returning, not quite like, back to Troy. But let's hear what Arne Slot said. So what he said, he was asked about by Lewis Steele from the Daily Mail. Shout out to Lewis. Are you happy to be back in Holland? Yeah, big smile on his face. Yeah, I'm happy to be in Liverpool. I'm happy to be in England and the training ground at Liverpool and everything that comes with that. But it's always nice to be home and here. And I've had many good times here in my private life. So it's nice to be back and speak a bit of Dutch for a while. Yeah, you can tell he's enjoying being back on a slot. And to be fair, I think he's enjoying being back because of the situation. He's in quite a relaxed mood. It's quite clear he doesn't actually care too much about this game. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm not saying he wants to throw it for anyone jumps on this at all either. What I'm saying is these are Arne Slot's words we quoted and further words to give you. He's always honest about the next game. We know that. In this press conference, he stated, I'm thinking about PSV and Bournemouth. So I normally only talk about one game, but I am thinking about... So he was already talking about having one eye on the weekend, which many of us will at the same time. So I think that's in context that we don't need to give too much about what Arne Slot said in this, apart from that. But he was asked about the format, and he said, I've said you could only judge it at the end of the tournament. Maybe if you look at the teams that are now 16th, 17th or 18th spot, some clubs can change. In the past, some of the clubs who perform worse and still continue in the playoff stage, they can actually reach further in the tournament. I work for a club who it wasn't easy to continue with, Feyenoord. So far, for them, it's even better. Yeah, there's been a lot made of this format. And it's interesting because if we finish top two, which is a good chance, let's not lie. I mean, sorry, we are going to finish second, but it's whether we finish first, isn't it? It's these places at the moment, 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th. So Liverpool will play, depending on where they finish, depending who is finishing on 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th. One of those teams in the playoffs, weren't they? Now, before anyone sort of looks at that and goes, we're going to get a hard draw, here's a couple of things to consider. Bayern Munich have got a home game against, I think it's Slovan Bratislava. They're going to win that. So they're going to move out of there. Real Madrid are Real Madrid. So they'll probably progress or move further. Celtic have got Villa. So that's tough. I could well see them being overtaken, being honest. Juventus, do you know what? People have talked about that as a really hard one. Has anyone seen the league with Juventus this season? They have drawn most of their games. So I would take them. Okay, so just keep that context in mind, as Arne Slot said. Yeah, maybe it doesn't mean too much at the moment. It's hard to judge. He was also asked about leaving his main stars at home as he takes this 21-man squad over. He said, and that's about, the kids and whether they get a chance to prove themselves. He said, they don't need to prove themselves. We know what their quality is. We're playing like teams in Europe who have many, many games. These players are ready, and all the ones who are left behind could have even played tomorrow. For the long term, if there was a moment to get some freshness back, we've always done that. It's always a choice. If we have a game every 3 days, we've made for the long term. All for it as well. It makes complete sense. He's talked before about giving the players days off and whether he always likes that and how his S&C staff, strength and conditioning, have talked to him about it. If it's the right thing and it's working at the moment, carry on. Why would we change anything at all? He also said that they will be given Wednesday off and then they will be back in training on Thursday. So who knows where you might see the players tomorrow. You might see Virgil van Dijk getting a nice roll neck from Zara in Liverpool 1. You might see Mo doing something at the Apple store there as well. Who knows? But the senior stars have got tomorrow off, which I think, if we're honest, isn't too bad a thing because of Bournemouth at the weekend. And I know it's a PSV press conference, but Arne Slot's got one eye on it. So why can't I at the same time? Hey, bite me if you disagree. Let's talk about Cody Gakpo as well, because he was the player put up and he made it quite clear. He wanted, in his press conference, that he wanted to come back. He's got a lot of friends there. It's understandable. He said, I spoke to Arne Slot about going back. So he was asked about what's it like going back to PSV and the whole experience? Here's what he said. He said, it will be a beautiful moment for me. The coach knew I wanted to be part of this team. Since I left, I have grown up. I'm more mature and I have more experience in my legs. Yeah, you get it. Ever since we got him in that January window when we were struggling a bit in that season under Jurgen, we felt that, we'd been banging them in the Dutch league and people are going to shout Eredivisie attacks. But it's taken a bit of time. But look how well Cody Gakpo's playing at the moment. And maybe it just says everything about him that he wants to play in this. There was a great piece as well. Sam Maguire did it for Sporting Life. So shout out to Sam to read that. And he breaks it down really well. I agree with this and what he put. I'm almost sampling a little bit of what he said. Stealing it if you want for a better word. Cody Gakpo is Liverpool's second most important attacker now, isn't he? The stats show that. There's no two ways about it in terms of goal contributions. People will look at Jota as another, but, Diogo Jota on the pitch is a different thing altogether, isn't it? So, yeah, well worth a read of that from Sam if you get a chance. But this was the only question I really wanted to play, or the answer I wanted to play around what Cody Gakpo said when asked about what's different from last season compared to this season.
1 minute against Lille last week. So also with... from the manager's point of view, that I probably would like to come over here and get some minutes here. So, yeah, that's why I'm here, actually.
Any more? Chris? Just, sorry if this has been asked in Dutch, because I couldn't hear it. But what do you think the biggest difference is this season to last, in terms of you were in a very similar position, going for 4 trophies? I think you mentioned you played Tribune until the last 10 games it was going. What do you think the biggest lesson you've learned that can help the team this season so it's different?
Well, I think the biggest difference is at this point, I think last season we had a lot of injuries, what I just said as well in Dutch. And obviously, I think Mo was also away for the Africa Cup, so that didn't help as well. He injured himself over there, I think, even. And then we had, I think, Darwin was out with his hamstring. Dominic was out, Curtis was out, Trent was out as well. So Jota was out as well. So Ali was out as well. So we had some problems last year, which didn't help. This year, at this point, almost everybody's fit. So we are hoping that we can keep it this way and we can keep going.
I think he absolutely nails that, Cody Gakpo, isn't it? What's the big difference this time to last year? Injuries. I mean, we're not far off, if you remember that Carabao Cup last year, and the kids, the people who were playing in that and who Klopp had to bring on at the end. Look at all the players or think about all the players that Cody Gakpo just listed there. It's absolute night and day, the injury list to what it is at the moment. Like we said, Joe Gomez is back training, so you're hoping he's not too far away from getting minutes, and there's good games like Plymouth in the Cup coming up for him at the same time. It also really, I mean, it's all been perpetrated by Lego Head, this, isn't it? And that Mythigate, the answer to his press conference, Liverpool normally, have this blip at this time of year. No, Liverpool last year had 1,000,001 injuries. Also, that's not quite true. Liverpool were ahead as they were. That's just a false statement by him, wasn't it? So there is hope. I think that it's lessons learned, as the question was asked. Managing the squad, and actually things like hearing Arne Slot is given so many of them the day off tomorrow and they're back in training on Thursday. I think it's brilliant. Even Cody Gakpo, the rest of the squad, they all get it, don't they? If we can keep these players fit, who knows what can happen. And there we go. That's probably the key call out. So some questions in Dutch. Again, it's not trying to be disrespectful. Some of them just weren't that interested. Maybe Arne Slot and everyone else has got their eye on Bournemouth, as he admitted somewhat. But let's rewind to Saturday. An almost perfect performance. I mean, this was cigar and croissant style. I'm pretty sure at one stage they nipped to the sidelines and Gravenberch tossed a Ferrero Rocher at McAllister just to have a bit of a munch on and have a small bit of refuel because they were looking for something to do. Absolutely dominant. Not perfect because of the goal they scored at the end, but an almost perfect performance. And we talk about the clues, the lessons learned, if you want, from this game. Let's be honest. We started with pace and we started with intent. It was against a low block. We knew Ipswich would start like that. We knew they would probably carry on like that as well. But we had real intent from the off. We weren't playing it as quickly as we'd like to, but the early goal from Szoboszlai, which is a hell of a strike, completely opens up the game. But let's be honest, it was a game where you were thinking, why can't we start all games like this? Not that football works that way, I get it, but the pace and intent were one of the big things for me. At the same time as well, how many of your stars were shining? BBD, Canate, absolutely pocketed Liam Delap, didn't they? Salah, just being Mo Salah and an absolute walking demigod on the pitch as ever, but that midfield, Szoboszlai, Grav, McAllister, sensational, Trent, but you can literally go through the team that way, can't you? There were so many of the stars shining. And when you get 7 or 8 of your best players playing that way, you're going to win. That's what happens at Liverpool. We know you can maybe carry a few because of the ability in others, but when they're all firing like that, someone is getting their pants pulled down royally. And unfortunately for the Tractor Boys, that was them on Saturday. And then I suppose we also talk about the clues from that. When the stars shine like that, and you've got a dead rubber like this one, what do? You protect them. That's what it's about with this one. Now, some are going to say I'm being a bit disrespectful to PSV, but let's just be clear on this. They're a decent side. These are top of the Eredivisie by 4 points, and they've actually outscored the next team. But I think it's 23 goals in the Eredivisie. So, you know, they're red hot favourites to win that. They're not bad in the Champions League. Now, the reason they're also a threat, people, is City are going to win tomorrow night. Dinamo Zagreb, they've got Milan at home. So that's tough. But Milan are in the automatic places. So they'll be thinking like, we need at least a point to make sure. And obviously there's Gakpo back. It's Liverpool, you know, that they'll be wanting to do a good job. And if you also look at the group stages, they've got 13 goals. They ship a few, but they got 13, which is more than a lot of teams higher up as well. So let's not just sort of disregard these as cannon fodder for this league and an easy 8 out of 8, especially when we'll come to the lineup. It's not the main stars playing at the same time, isn't it? So they are threats, no doubts about it. The other thing to say, they got a few players. Ricardo Pepe, if anyone knows Ricardo Pepe, he came from the MLS, didn't he? A young player. Now got 16 goals in all competitions this season. Yeah? Only 22, the US international. Luke de Jong, I can't believe he's only 34. I had him at like 64. He just seems to have been around forever. Tillman's injured, the one who was on loan at Rangers that time. And maybe the name that a lot of people will be looking at, Johan Bakayoko. Left-footed right winger, linked with a lot of clubs, turned down Brentford last summer, linked with us at one stage. Not really shone again this season. You know, 10 goal contributions across everything, playing the Eredivisie. We'll have to see what happens with him. But there's goals in this team. Let's just be clear. They are a threat. They will be desperate to have a good game in front of us. So, yeah. And with the lineup, scorers, which we'll come to, I mean, you look at this squad for me. Maybe I'm just being absolutely mental, and feel free to drop your lineup and what you think it will be in the chat panel here. But I actually think it's quite easy to predict. Call me mental. I think it's Kelleher in nets. It's Connor Bradley at right back. It's Jarell Quansah at centre back with Endo. Do you remember that game against Southampton in the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup where he played it and he kind of came into midfield a bit when he had the chance? I think he'll do that again. Left back, both Costas and Robbo have gone, so you probably fancy an alternate with that. Wouldn't surprise if it's a half each, would it? Or a 60 and a 30, but I'd probably gamble on a half each. But I'm going to go Costa starting this one because Robbo started against Ipswich, didn't he, at the same time? Midfield, again, might disagree with me. I think it's dead easy to predict. Harvey Elliott's going to start in the 10. Tyler Morton. And I think Train Ione will play. I wouldn't be surprised if Train Ione plays and McConnell comes on for him at some point. That's just honestly what I think. Well, I don't think it's that difficult to predict. Someone can shout me that I'm wildly wrong. The forward line, well, let's be honest, you've taken 3 senior forwards. So Nunes will start in the middle, Chiesa on the right, and Cody Gakpo on the left. And I mean, if you look at those as a 3, Nunes, Chiesa, Gakpo, there's goals in there. There's shots galore with Chiesa. That boy just lives to have a shot, doesn't he? Basically. So I'm quite excited to see how he does from the off. I really am, actually. I think he has got a chance to kick on's the wrong word because of experience in his pedigree, but stake a real claim, you hope, for a first team spot. That is the lineup. I genuinely think it's easy to predict. You know, you may disagree with me. Feel free to comment if you think I'm wrong. Scoreline and scorers. I'm just going to give you that line again from Arne Slot. It doesn't matter if we win or lose tomorrow. About an hour ago, he did say that, ladies and gents. For me, I can't get a 1-1 draw out my head. That's bonus prediction. A 1-1 draw with Darwin to get on the score sheet. Assisted by Chiesa, it'll score the rebound. If it doesn't go in, we'll see. That's bonus prediction. 1-1 in the Champions League game tomorrow. They all kick off at the same time. So I will be interested to see how it looks for us. We'll know what Barcelona are doing. We'll know if we're going to finish top. PSV will have an idea. We'll know if City are going to be set to qualify. So it does feel like quite an interesting evening of Champions League football coming up. But this does feel quite relaxed, doesn't it? It's strange doing it this way. And trust me, when we're talking about Bournemouth, there'll be a lot more intensity to it. But not for us, not for Arne Slot either, who admitted he's got one eye on Bournemouth. We will see what tomorrow night at this time brings. But there we are, ladies and gents. On Tuesday, the 28th of January, that was the post-conference presser for Anfield Index.